Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Welcome back to another inspiring episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast, hosted by the one, the only Phil Better, the podcast mogul. That's me. And today we are diving deep into the world of success coaching. And we have an incredible guest who's helped business owners and executives around the globe to reach their full potential. Our guest today is an international success coach and the host of the Wealthy Mind podcast. I have been a guest on it, and it's an amazing podcast, and we'll link to the episode down below before anything so you can hear that. But our guest specializes in empowering high achievers hit their goals and stay accountable, offering the kind of guidance that turn dreams into reality. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to level up or an executive wanting to sharpen your focus, our guest is here to show you how to take your success to the next level. So if you're ready to unlock the mindset that will help you achieve wealth, success, and more, this episode's going to be packed with actionable insights. So let's get right into it. Please join me in welcoming Misty Rose Gold to the show.
Yay! Woohoo! Party!
I wish I had my soundboard. I had to move into a different location, and I did have claps on it, and sometimes I would. Maybe I'll put in some post, and we'll get just a little cheering in there. Misty, thank you for coming on to the podcast. I know you had graciously offered to make me a guest on your podcast, and I had a wonderful time, and we've been communicating and all that. So it's going to even feel better for our audience because it's going to be a really like friends chatting.
Right. Yes.
Than just a regular episode. But
yes.
So thank you so much for gracing us. But my audience always want to know, why did you become an entrepreneur? What made you decide to go down that route?
Well, it chose me at 10 years old.
I'm going to have to ask you to elaborate just a little bit more. How did it choose you at 10 years old? And this is going to be a great hook for the last question of the show. So how did it hook? Why at 10 did that make you think you needed to become an entrepreneur or force you to become an entrepreneur?
A great story to share. So my grandma asked me to come and be a sales girl at her yard sale. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. So I showed up and I was just doing my thing. And if people had something they wanted to purchase, I helped them out. And then this gentleman came up to me, and we're in the garage at this point. And he says, how much is that rake up on the wall? I was like, is there a price tag on it? He said, no. How about $10? I just pulled a number out of nowhere. I was like, how about $10? He was like, okay, cool, I'll take it. I went up to my grandma, Grandma, will you give the guy the rake? I sold it to him for $10. And she starts laughing.
Oh my God.
And she walks up to the guy and says, it's technically not for sale, but because my granddaughter sold it to you, I will sell it to you for $10 and we'll replace it with a more expensive rake, of course.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah.
Saleswoman right off the bat. At 10 years old, you're a saleswoman, already loving that life.
Yep. 100%. Make it up as you go. That's what we do. I mean,
that is very true. As both podcasters and entrepreneurs know, we start with zero of a plan. Sometimes we have a blueprint and we just go with it. And your blueprint was sell things that had a price tag. And if they didn't, you took initiative instead of going to ask. Which is what entrepreneurs do. We need to be at the forefront. We were the ones in the Wild West going out and claiming states to new land and creating new things. From there, obviously, I'm guessing there's education.
Well, the story is not over.
Oh, let's go.
Yep. So my grandmother was awesome, and she honored my sale, and she gave the guy the rake. And they had their little chit chat, and I went off and did my thing. And the guy comes up to me as he's leaving, and he says, "You're going to be a great entrepreneur one day." I was like, huh? What is that?
10 years old. What's an entrepreneur? I don't know what this is.
What is that? Ancha, what? And he said, "You're going to be a great businesswoman one day." And that lit a fire in me like nobody's business. All it takes is one person, one word, one moment, you know? Uh, it all worked out beautifully. My grandma could have shut it down. He could have just walked away and said nothing, you know, but it lit that fire in me to, oh, wait, hold on. I'm a businesswoman. Okay, that works. Now, what do I do? How do I make this a reality?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's such a fun story. I love that story. And grandma, rest her soul, she's in heaven. But yeah, it
Oh,
was
that is a great, and pardon me. But yeah, you see your grandma encouraging you and was like, all right, yeah, she sold it. We're gonna honor the deal.
uh-huh.
And that dude just dropping that thing that just reverberated into where you are today. Apart from selling a rake for $10, um, at 10, which is not a bad deal,
Mhm.
uh, for the guy. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, what 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 was the thing that really set you off, that like clicked and was like the first success that you had when you started venturing further into life?
Mm. Well, that's more of an interesting story. So I had an experience at 8 years old that opened my eyes to the world around me, which my immediate family was no bueno, not good for me, extremely abusive and toxic and all the things. And in that moment, I just had that knowing, you know, as a kid, you have knowings of what you're going to be doing and all the things. It goes a little bit deeper than that, but we'll keep it surface level. So I had this knowing of, hey, I'm here to change the world. And when that knowing hit me, it scared me to death, like the scariest moment of my life.
I can understand that is a very intense thing to have at such a young age.
Yes, but very eye-opening at the same time. So it's like some people might call it an awakening or an eye-opening experience. It certainly was. And what it opened my eyes to was very depressing. I'm like, oh crap. uh, shouldn't I have a better family to change the world? I mean, shouldn't I have a loving, supportive, good family? Because I don't. Outside of my grandma, that was the family was extremely toxic. So anyhow, this all ties together because all these stories lead to now me. And then 10 years old hits, right? And I have this bug that starts inside of me of, I'm an entrepreneur now. I'm a businesswoman. Okay, cool. Let's go figure this out. And at 10, I had another thing that hit me, which was the knowing that I'm going to be a public speaker and standing on stage speaking in front of people one day. Second scariest moment of my life.
Yeah, yeah, I can attest to that.
Yes, because I was extremely shy, had zero people skills. I'm like, talk to a stranger, huh? What? No. So what did I do? I started searching and I love to sing. So I put myself on stages singing. And that's where it all began. And I was like, cool, I'm going to be a famous singer and be paid money. Like, this is awesome. Well, that didn't pan out. And I tried multiple times over the years. And I went into modeling. That made money. But again, it didn't go where I needed it to. So at 20 years old is when the coaching bug hit me. When I accidentally did my first session with somebody, I didn't know what to call it at the time, but I was like, I have the ability to help this person and give them a different message than what they're telling themselves. They didn't listen, but it lit that fire in me to go do more of the same. So that's the short story of my foundation.
Now, when you were going into the coaching world, how did you figure out who you wanted to help? Obviously, you have a specific individual that you love helping become success, but
Mhm.
how did you find that that person? Because obviously you say, okay, I'm going to go into coaching. Who are you coaching? And instead of saying everybody, we know as entrepreneurs, you need to narrow down to someone specific. So how did you go about doing that?
That's easy. Whoever would listen.
That's one way of doing it. And being very honest, which I love with you, Misty.
I mean, it's the truth.
It is. I love it. And the truth is always the best.
That was my beginning as a coach. Who would listen to me? That's who I'm talking to. And some people didn't want to listen, but I made them listen.
Persistent coach. That's what we need. Someone to hold us accountable to how to become better. And now, who are you looking to help? Like, how did you figure out those are the people you wanted to help? Was how I was trying to segue into there. But I'll just jump the gun and ask, like, how did you figure out who you wanted to help?
My niche has transitioned over the years, and now I work with empire builders. It's quite fun.
I can only imagine empire builders are very interesting because they have such a long-term vision of success and aren't so concentrated on the short term.
Correct.
They understand how empires are built over time and strategically. How did you become involved with these empire builders? Because that's a very, very narrow niche of individuals, and it's kind of hard to find those people.
Well, I'm an empire builder. I've spent decades building my empire, 30 plus years. To give away my age clearly and precisely, I'm 43 years old. So
no hiding behind the veil there.
Yeah, no.
Fellow elder millennial.
The senior millennial. I heard a term the other day. It was like geriatric millennial or something.
That's fine. I prefer elder millennial than geriatric because that just makes me feel like I'm in an old folks home, and I'm like, I'm not. I know that's not fair. I'm not 50 yet.
No,
but yes. So you're an empire builder. Finding fellow empire builders. How do you go about doing that?
Again, life just brings them to me. So it's either through networking or public speaking or private speaking engagements or podcasts or you name it, referrals from other clients. I just organically have the people that come to me that need to. And some people resonate with the message and some don't. And some of the people don't even realize that they're an empire builder until I drop the term. And they're like, wait, what? I thought people like that were all greedy and disgusting people. And I'm like, no, that's our choice. You can build an empire with integrity. That's 100% our choice. So a lot of it is giving people permission to step into that juicy, sexy, powerful topic and title of I'm an empire builder.
It is enticing.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So we're going to talk about, because you help empire builders step into their full frame, into their full body, and help them become successful. And one of that ways is through public speaking, because we have to step on stage if you're an empire builder or if you're an entrepreneur, at least. At the very least, entrepreneurs do occasionally have to step on stage and talk. And I have the ability to have my first one this upcoming Sunday. So I'm going to pick your brain as someone who has, have a few more speaking engagements under your belt than I. I'm going to take this opportunity. What is the common mistake you see first timers make when they take the stage?
First timers, veterans, all the above. I'm just going to fill in the blank. They fail to connect with the audience.
So as a first timer, I don't want to fall into that category, the 80% that fail to connect with the audience. What should I do? I'm going to say it for me and not the audience. They're not here. This is my private coaching. So shh.
Right. I know.
This is my private coaching. So no one else is here. It's just me and you here. What should I do to avoid that step and be part of the 20% that connect with the audience and take it to, an 80, people are thinking it's an 80% value?
So a lot of speakers, seasoned and not, will start off with, hey, this is me, here's my credentials, all the things. And people are like, yeah, Jan, tell me something interesting. I start with a question. And I just spoke on Friday on a public stage, and the first words out of my mouth was a question. Who here has been lied to? Every hand goes up, including mine, right? So in that space, I'm automatically connecting with the audience. I'm not telling them how great I am. I'm connecting with them on a vulnerable personal level. And I said, okay, great. I was lied to this morning by a client. Here's what happened. I shared the story with them and how important it is to tell the truth. As an empire builder, as a business owner, we have to seek the truth in order to effectively build anything and build ourselves. And this person wasn't willing to face the truth, but I had to face the truth. I was like, oh crap, my client's lying to me. There's this elaborate scheme of, here's all this information as to why I can't show up in person for our session today. And because I lead with thinking the best of everyone, but seeing the truth, I was like, interesting. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to save the painful story. But what I got to was, all right, what is the truth of this situation? And I had to admit to myself that my client was lying to me. So I'm telling the audience this story, that I'm no different than the rest of everybody here, right? So again, connecting on a very personal level. And I told them as soon as I admitted the truth to myself that this person was lying to me, then I was able to move forward and take the next step. And the next step was a text message that said, hey, if you don't respect me enough to tell me the truth, I can't work with you. And I fired my client through that method. And everybody in the audience was cheering. I wasn't expecting a cheer coming.
I would have mixed reactions as well if I got cheered for firing a client, but I feel that the audience resonates with that. They've all had a client such as they had to deal with a client. They resonated with you instantaneously because they've all been there, and they haven't had the guts, if you will, to fire. And seeing you give them permission by firing your own, and they're like, if a successful person can do it, like Misty, then I can do it. So yeah, I think that's why you got the cheers. But also, I would be completely confused if I had in your space.
Well, thank you for your insight. That is not something I've thought about for the audience, but yes, there were a lot of connection points throughout my talk, and you just identified another one that I haven't spent the time to think about. So I appreciate that. Yes.
Well, you always like getting the perspective of the audience of how well you did or your story. And since you gave us an abbreviated version of the talk that you gave on Friday, this is, as an audience member, that's what I've gleaned from it. Because I connected. We've all had those clients that are a pain in the pain, a PITA, if you will, and you can figure out what PITA means later. But yes, so I need to find a way, in essence, to connect with the audience through a shared experience.
Correct. So connect through stories, connect through getting them to say yes. It's a secret of selling from the stage. Get your audience to say yes to you. And they don't need to say yes with their mouths necessarily. It's a subconscious yes. So who here has been lied to? Everyone raised their hand. That's a yes. So it's not obvious yeses. So connecting with them through that way and getting them to say yes to you is part of connecting. Sharing vulnerable stories is part of connecting. Giving bits of me throughout the conversation. It was natural as a conversation unfolds. It wasn't, hey, here's my credential. Hey, here's all the amazing stuff that I've accomplished in the last 30 plus years. I didn't do that. I said, as a success coach who works with empire builders, it is vital to the success of your empire if you identify the truth and move from there and create everything from a truth point, right? So sprinkling stuff in like that. I sprinkled in my podcast in conversation. It wasn't just in your face, right? It was more of, I'm here to connect with the audience. And yes, I'm sprinkling in a little bit about me that gives me credibility, but that's not the necessary part of it. So when you are speaking, it's different for every business, but figure out how you're going to get the audience to say yes to you, and figure out how you're going to connect. What do they need from you? What do they want from you first, and what do they need from you second? So they needed connection, right? Everybody needs connection. It's just the nature of humanity. They needed connection. They needed to know that I was there for them, not just to give them this presentation of all the wisdom I have and how awesome I am. And then, okay, cool, awesome, great. Nice lecture, bye.
Yeah, I'm at school again. I barely know anybody who enjoyed those types of lectures at school where they're just prattling on about something that doesn't really pertain to what they want to hear. The boringness.
Yep, 100%. So knowing people, they all need connection. They all want to feel valuable. They all want to feel included, right? So getting the audience to interact with me is vital. Even if it's through questions, even if it's through raising of hands, whatever the case is, it's so, so, so important. So this is also you're asking permission. You're asking permission to be a part of their world without asking permission by saying, hey, I'm going to be vulnerable first, then you can be vulnerable with me second. And in that cycle, it continued throughout my presentation. I was on stage for 40 minutes. And in that space, that cycle continued to connect deeper and to gain more permission. And then what I did is I took everyone into a guided meditation to learn the tool that I use to manage my emotions. And I said, okay, everybody, I have created everything so simple that men have to love it.
I see your point. I'm not going to disagree with the fact that men are somewhat simple, but please continue.
Yeah. And I said, okay, if men love it, then everybody else will do it, right? And of course, the audience is laughing. And at this point, I've already earned their trust. I've already gained permission. They've already said yes to me a bunch of times. They already know my heart, who I am as a human being. And immediately I was like, all right, we're going to do this in a guided meditation. Everybody closes their eyes without me prompting them. I was like, damn. Okay, cool. They're with me.
They are trusting of
yes.
you. That's what it is. That first story locked them in. We're going to jump back on because I don't want to lose too much time and not be able to ask this of you before we continue. That's an amazing story. I like to leave a little thing. What do you do apart from meditation, obviously, because we're speaking of meditation? I know you're a big proponent of that, but what else do you do to invest in yourself, to take yourself further in business, particularly as an entrepreneur?
Well, looking for the truth is a huge one. Always, always, always. And of course, a ton of self-care. And meditation is a part of that, just getting quiet and listening. It's that deep inner voice that comes from our soul that so many people don't listen to because they're so busy avoiding and distracting and all the things. But that's where we get the best guidance. That's where we get the best ideas, is like, okay, when we're quiet. Most of the time it happens for people when they're on the toilet.
Not going to disagree that some of my good ideas have come when I'm in the men's room, but we'll just continue on and keep that between us all.
There's a reason for that. There's no distractions typically unless you're on your phone. But there's a reason for some people getting their best ideas on the toilet. So anywho, this is how I have built my empire. is really getting quiet and listening to what the deeper internal guidance is telling me. Your soul, your intuition, I don't care what you call it, but it's always there if we take a moment to listen.
I want to go back to you commanding the audience without even knowing it by getting them to close their eyes and give them a free meditation. How about we do that right now? Let's continue on with what you did there to the audience, so that my audience can feel the amazingness. So, Misty, if you could continue your story, please.
Sure. So I'm going to change up the points from the meditation just a little bit because they were specific to the room.
Of course.
So
we'll get into feeling being, I guess, a better entrepreneur and the positivity in that regard. I guess we could go with.
Perfect. Okay.
Let's go with that.
All right. So you guys will love it. You'll know how simple this is. It's awesome. So if you would close your eyes with me. We're going to start taking deep breaths all the way into the belly. Your belly must move. And we're going to keep these silences short for the sake of airtime. But usually I let people breathe for a little bit, get the belly moving. And once we learn this technique, we do not have to be in a meditative state to do it. That's the beauty of it. Now I want you to keep breathing. We're going to release stress with each breath. We're not going to think about where it comes from. We are simply going to think of the word stress, breathe it out of our bodies with each exhale. And let's go ahead and continue to release the energy of stress with each breath until we feel calmer or lighter. Good. So now that we have released the stress, we can go a little bit deeper. And for entrepreneurs, the word that comes to me that we all struggle with at times is doubt. So I want to release the energy of doubt with each breath. Thinking of the word, not thinking of where it comes from. Think of the word doubt, releasing it with each exhale. And I want us to continue to release the energy of doubt until we feel calmer or lighter. All right, Phil, with your eyes closed, tell me a positive energy or emotion you would like to replace all of this with. We've made space. Now we need to fill it up with something good.
Excitement.
Love it. All right. So with each breath, I want you to breathe in the energy of excitement, thinking of the word, pulling the energy into your body. And let's go ahead and pull the energy of excitement in until we feel lighter or more energized. And then we're going to bring in the mindset piece. I can do this. So I want all of us thinking about that phrase gently. I can do this. And breathe in the energy of that. Good. And when you're ready, go ahead and come back to the present moment with me and open your eyes.
I feel refreshed.
Yay.
I love that. And I'm definitely going to be cutting that whole little section out and downloading it separately. And I'll make it available for the audience as well, so that they can have that as a little bonus from Misty, so that they can get a little refresher anytime they need. Misty, I'm going to ask you the last question before we end the episode here. What advice are you giving to your 10-year-old self?
That's beautiful. It's the same advice that I'm going to give to you as a speaker.
Okay.
Just show up to connect and serve.
I love it.
If I would have known that at 10 years old, getting on stage, singing a solo in front of hundreds of people, it would have been different.
It would, for sure. Misty, I'm going to jump off stage. I'm going to do a couple deep breaths. Let my audience know where they can find you, how they can connect with you.
All right, you guys, if you want to reach out to me, please do so from my website, mistyrosegold.com. And if you love the meditation technique that I teach, the emotional management tool that is built into that, you can access that on my Wealthy Mind podcast and my app. The app is very important for accessing the meditation itself. And then, of course, we just have fun conversations on my Wealthy Mind podcast. And that's it.
Love it. I love it. Definitely, before I thank everything, but definitely check out the Wealthy Mind podcast, link down below, featuring the podcast mogul Phil Better. Shameless plug. Very shameless plug. But I'm allowed to. This is my podcast. But anyways, yeah, Misty, thank you first for that amazing little meditation segment. I'm going to enjoy it forever and ever. Definitely going to let the audience have it as well, because it is worth its weight in gold. But also thank you for sharing such deep and amazing stories and advice for me as a first-time public speaker. So I appreciate that so much, Misty. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me on as your guest.
You're very, very welcome. You are, of course, welcome again as a guest. But to my audience, here's the big things. I need you to check down the show notes. Check out all those lovely links that connect to Misty, to leave a like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast and all that fun jazz. I don't really like promoting myself, but check out Misty, because her links are down there. The links to the podcast and everything else is there as well. I thank you very much for listening, Misty. Again, thank you so much for being here. And as always, remember to invest in yourself.